few hours hold to start the firing with, just to give you an idea about timing. This one that Sean made, it's very thin. It's probably this thick. That thing is going to dry too fast, and so this one you could probably leave uncovered, just leave it uncovered and it would be fine. That one, if you just leave uncovered, it's going to dry too fast and it's going to pull itself apart, okay? That one will be bone dry if you let it in probably 3 days, 2 or 3 days. And you can fire that one probably without any hold. Just put it in there and it's, you know, it would fire in a slow kiln just fine because it's much thicker than this one. You'll have some students that make them that thin. I've worked with high school students, like with our art camp. They made these amazing bowls, and some of them were really, really thin, and they are really quite beautiful. So, questions about that?
Questions about the sink. So you don't want clay to go down the drain.
Well, a couple of the drains have the special traps, right?
They do have clay traps. I told them that they should get
This
clay
one
traps.
has, I know this one has the clay, that's a clay trap,
There
right?
is a clay trap.
Yeah.
Okay. How do
But
So-
not one, I know the one in between our rooms has a clay trap,
okay.
and then the big sinks in our room have the clay trap, but then the little ones don't.
Are we still trying to be cautious about not filling that up, or it doesn't matter?
So these sinks, some of them have clay traps. I would try to keep the clay out of the clay trap. And so what I would do is I would probably put a 5-gallon bucket in one side over there. And as crazy as this sounds and as ugly as it's going to be, when they have clay on their hands, even this, I would have them rinse their hands in that 5-gallon bucket and then wash their hands in the sink with the water. I would be a...
Stickler.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Is the clay that ends up in that 5-gallon bucket that they rinse first, is that reusable clay, or is it?
It'll take probably, unless they're just putting their hands in there with a bunch of clay, it'll take a semester to get anything really in there. But yeah, that clay is all usable. Don't let them put any clay down the sink. You just want to not even go there. Because if you let them put a little bit down the sink, the next thing you know, it's a mess. And you don't want to have to deal with it. You don't want to have to take the clay trap apart, because you just don't. So the other way to do this would be, let's say that you wanted to speed the cleanup up. You could have a couple of 5-gallon buckets sitting in the corner where they're just rinsing their hands in there and then washing their hands. But it has to go in the rinse bucket first. You know, a little bit of bleach goes a long way. You know, put a cap full of bleach in there once every 2 or 3 weeks, and it stays relatively fine. We change our sink clay traps. Like I have a clay trap sink bucket in my sinks. Once a semester we get rid of that clay. So, that's a great question. Other questions?
As far as reclaiming clay from the wheels, should we put that in a bucket or a trash can?
So I use a 35-gallon trash can for our reclaim. I don't know how much reclaim you guys, I don't know yet. I don't know. When I ran that program, the high school program with 36 kids, all doing clay times 6 classes, I used a big 35-gallon trash can. But if you're running 1 or 2 clay classes out of here, probably a 5-gallon bucket is enough to keep your reclaim in. Probably a table, you know, this size or 3/4 the size is enough to have a reclaim, you know, a plaster table. Anyway, yeah. Now,
You're saying drill holes in the table?
yeah, I mean, certainly not a $1,000 table like this one. You
Right,
know,
but if we had a
an old
rickety
wooden
table.
table, just drill a bunch of holes in it so that the air can get through it. And
After the plaster's set?
put a piece of something that will disintegrate down so that you can make sure that the plaster doesn't go through the holes.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Yeah. And trying to remember what I used when I did that.
I bet we
Like I
can
have a big
find
piece
a
of that
video.
concrete board,
Right.
but
You want the holes to go all the way through. You want air to get to the bottom. So you could drill after it's poured. You could drill after it's poured. Maybe that's what I did. I drilled after it was poured. From the downside or upside.
So what's the cleanup on these? Do you just let it dry and then dust it off?
Yeah, these, you could take a big wet sponge and just go like this and give them a swipe, and they could be stored in the corner, in what normally would be a wear rack, or a, yeah. And for us, we scrape them into our slot bucket. Our tables, we have our tables covered with concrete board, and I had a few residents ago who discovered just taking a mop, just going like this was a way to clean the table. So we just mop our tables. Yeah.
oh no,
What's that?
I think my mac and cheese is gonna leak out of that hole.
What else?